So, I actually think that at least we aim to do this, that when people go into our academies here in New Haven, that not only do our ministers go in and is there cultural competence training that occurs, but also people from the community go in and are a part of that, so that even before they're out on the street getting to know the community, they begin to understand the social mores of our community. They begin to understand our goals and aspirations as a community and our history to some extent. Because the other reality about African Americans is that we have been here for over 500 years, and yet in the 500 years that we've been here, we have been behind every other population that has been able to move into the middle class. That we have been a group of people as African Americans that this country has allowed to stereotype and hold behind. And so oftentimes, people who don't come from African American communities don't even begin to understand the privilege that they have. And so it's really important that that training occurs so that they begin to see how, in fact, privilege that they take for granted, and I really think some of this presidential race is about this, that the privilege that they take for granted is privilege that hasn't been accorded to every population or every community. So I think it's really important that our police officers understand that. I know that we have been trying to do that. We probably need to kick it up a notch, but once people have a framework for understanding the communities that they're policing and see the humanity in others, because I think that is the most important thing, and I think all of us could take a little dose of that, but you've really got to see people who you interact with as the same as you, as another human being. And we've got to see police women and men the same as us too. I really loved what Shafiq said at another event when he said that no police officer that he knows leaves his home and family thinking that he's going to go out and kill someone. And one of the really great opportunities that I've had as mayor is to sit with officers as we've driven around the city, and one of the things that one of the officers said to me, that any officer who has been involved in a shooting or has actually maimed or killed someone, even if it was in the line of duty, that has scarred that person for the rest of their life. So no one leaves home wanting to do that. So we've got to understand ourselves better from the community point of view and from law enforcement. And I think and to understand the culture, the American culture that we live in, because race does matter. And it has had an impact in the way that we all see each other, whoever we are. And oftentimes, the way that we see each other is in error.
The next question is for Gemma. Gemma, how is the news and social media impacting the education of students in urban trauma?
I'm going to try to answer that question from a broader perspective, in that in New Haven Public Schools, we are primarily concerned about safe, supportive, strengths-based communities. And so we believe that if we are able to achieve that supports our academic goals of students being ready for career, college, and life. We have seen a proliferation of more challenged behavior issues as a result of students being able to communicate instantly about what's happening in their world, what's happening at home, what's happening in their communities, and what's happening in school. And so social media does create a unique challenge for us in terms of driving deeper challenge behavior issues. But what we do know is that the policies that we have had in place to deal with those challenging behaviors have not been among the most successful, where we are now beginning to think about deepening what we call restorative practices and broadening Dr. Jim Comer's social development strategies. And that really requires us to think more deeply about the relationships that we have with our young people. And so when you see a student who I would call Debbie, who is a student who is in one of our youth staff programs this summer, she does have a probation officer. She has serious behavior issues. And we worked really hard on getting to know Debbie. And yesterday, Debbie came up to me and handed me a note after we spent 2.5 weeks building a relationship, trying to understand what is the root cause of Debbie's behavior. And that note started by saying, I was only a certain amount of years when I died, while friends and family sat and cried at my funeral because they wished I was alive. That's the beginning of the note. And the note ended by saying, but God said and showed that light, if only I could tell them